Welcome to the dark machinery of influence. There are 7 psychological weapons so powerful, so universal, that they work on everyone, including you, especially you. These aren't suggestions. These are actual triggers, buttons hardwired into human psychology that, when pressed, make resistance nearly impossible. Right now, Fortune 500 companies are deploying these tactics against you. Social media platforms use them to hijack your attention. Marketers embed them in every ad you see. Politicians wield them to win your vote. And unless you understand the game, you'll keep losing. The book, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, has sold over 5 million copies worldwide and become the definitive guide recommended by everyone from Warren Buffett's partner Charlie Munger to FBI negotiators. It's not popular because it's inspiring. It's popular because it works. This book pulls back the curtain on the exact tactics that make you compliant, often without you realizing a single thing just happened. This is intelligence from behind enemy lines. The actual techniques that separate billion-dollar empires from garage startups, master persuaders from amateurs. The difference between those who influence and those who get influenced. You have 2 choices. Keep stumbling through life as someone else's profit margin, or learn the hidden architecture of persuasion and take back control. The question isn't whether you'll be influenced today. You will. The question is, will you finally see it coming? Let's begin. Chapter 1. Levels of Influence. Your brain is running prehistoric software. Ethologists, scientists who study animal behavior in the wild, discovered something unsettling. Animals operate on programmed sequences. Trigger goes off, behavior executes. No analysis, no choice. These fixed action patterns are mechanical, predictable, and identical across the species. What should worry you is that humans run the same code. We react to single features in our environment, trigger features, that bypass our rational mind and launch automatic responses. Click, whir. It happens before you even realize you've made a decision. Why? Efficiency. Your brain is drowning in information every second. Analyzing everything would paralyze you. So evolution gave you shortcuts. React to key triggers, save time and energy, survive another day. But the exploit is that these shortcuts make you predictable and manipulable. When you respond automatically to a single piece of information, even when that piece is usually reliable, you open yourself to errors. And when someone else discovers your trigger features, they can pull them like levers whenever they want compliance. That's exactly what's happening to you. Compliance professionals, salespeople, marketers, negotiators, have mapped your trigger features with scientific precision. They know which levers make you say yes without thinking, and they're pulling them constantly, arranging situations to activate your automatic responses at exactly the wrong times. For you, the right times for them. Take, for example, perceptual contrast, a lever so effective because you never see it coming. Real estate agents don't just show you houses randomly. They show you 2 dumps first, overpriced, ugly, depressing. Then they show you the target property. Suddenly it looks amazing. Not because it changed, but because your perception did. The contrast warped your judgment, and you didn't even notice the manipulation. Retailers do this with pricing. Negotiators do this with offers. Anyone who wants something from you can weaponize the sequence of information to reshape how you see reality. The compliance process, getting you to say yes, isn't about convincing you anymore. It's about triggering you, finding which pieces of information activate your automatic responses, then engineering situations where those triggers fire on command. You think you're making decisions. You're executing pre-programmed responses to stimuli someone else carefully arranged. The 7 principles of influence are the master levers, the core trigger, features that work on virtually everyone, across cultures, across contexts. Learn them, and you'll start seeing the strings attached to your choices. Ignore them, and you'll keep dancing. Chapter 2. Reciprocation. Ever feel like you just have to return a favor, even when you didn't ask for it, even when you don't like the person? That's reciprocation at work. It's one of the strongest forces in human behavior. People everywhere feel a powerful need to repay what others give them. This rule is built into every culture because it helped our ancestors survive. Sharing food, tools, and help kept groups alive. The rule is simple. If someone does something for you, you feel obligated to do something back, and often you give more than you got. This makes it a favorite tool for anyone trying to get a yes. Make no mistake, human societies derive a truly significant competitive advantage from the reciprocity rule, and, consequently, they make sure their members are trained to comply with it. Each of us has been taught to live up to the rule from childhood, and each of us knows the social sanctions and derision applied to anyone who violates it. Because there is a general distaste for those who take and make no effort to give in return, we will often go to great lengths to avoid being considered a freeloader. It is to those lengths that we will often be taken and, in the process, be taken by individuals who stand to gain from our indebtedness. Here are some clear examples that show how it works in real life. First, think about free samples. Stores hand out tiny bites of food or small gifts. Many people feel awkward walking away without buying something. The gift creates a sense of debt, even if it's small and unwanted. A famous case involved the Hare Krishna group. They struggled to collect donations at airports. Then they changed their approach. Members would approach people, hand them a flower or a book, and say it was a gift. They refused to take it back. Then they asked for a donation. Suddenly donations poured in. People felt they had received something and needed to give back, even if they didn't want the flower and didn't like the solicitors. Later, people caught on and started avoiding them, but the technique worked for years. Another everyday example happens at restaurants. Studies looked at what happens when waiters give a small gift with the bill, like a mint or two. When no mint was given, tips stayed normal. 1 mint, tips went up about 3%. 2 mints, tips increased more. But the biggest jump, around 23%, came when the waiter gave 1 mint, started to walk away, then turned back and said, "And here's an extra one for you nice people." The personalized, unexpected extra made people feel special and increased the urge to reciprocate. Why does this work so well? Because the rule kicks in automatically. You don't need to like the person. You don't need a good reason. Once you receive something, the discomfort of owing them pushes you to balance the scales. Think of the implications. People we might ordinarily dislike, unsavory or unwelcome sales operators, disagreeable acquaintances, Representatives of strange or unpopular organizations can greatly increase the chance that we will do what they wish merely by providing us with a small initiating favor. This leads to powerful techniques that salespeople and others use. One is the door-in-the-face technique. Ask for something big first, something most people will refuse. When they say no, ask for something smaller. The smaller request feels like a concession from you, so they feel like they should meet you halfway. For example, a charity might ask for a big donation first. After refusal, they ask for a smaller amount. Compliance jumps because it feels fair. Another is the "that's not all" technique. Make an offer, then quickly add bonuses before the person responds. This set is $100. And wait, I'll throw in free shipping and an extra item. The added value feels like a gift, triggering reciprocation. People are more likely to buy because they feel they're getting a great deal. Even in big situations, like politics or international relations, reciprocation shows up. Countries remember past help and return favors years later. The key takeaway is that the rule is so strong that even unsolicited gifts create obligation. But you can protect yourself. If a gift feels like a setup for a sales pitch, you can accept it without owing anything. Recognize when it's manipulation, not genuine kindness. Then decide freely. Reciprocation is fair when both sides benefit. But when it's used on purpose to create unfair debt, awareness is your best defense. Chapter 3. Liking, the friendly thief. There's one huge unsettling truth they don't want you to know. You're being manipulated by faces you find beautiful. See, compliance experts, the people paid to make you say yes, have cracked a simple code. People don't just prefer attractive individuals. They unconsciously worship them. That pretty face creates what psychologists call a halo effect, a cognitive virus that makes you assume beauty equals brilliance, kindness, talent. You're not evaluating reality anymore. You're under a spell, and the beautiful know it. They wield their genetics like a weapon, shifting your attitudes, extracting your compliance, before you even realize you've been conquered. But physical attraction is just the first layer of the manipulation. They've discovered other back doors into your mind. Similarity, for instance. Mirror someone's speech patterns, their beliefs, their background. And suddenly, you're nodding along to requests you'd normally reject. Your critical thinking evaporates. Why? Because your primitive brain says, "They're like me, they're safe, say yes." Then there's praise, the psychological Trojan horse. Compliments don't just feel good, they reprogram you. The most insidious, praise delivered when you're not listening, compliments spoken behind your back, that eventually reach your ears. Your defenses never even activate. Even more sinister. Compliments that assign you a reputation to uphold. You're so generous. Now you're trapped, performing generosity to match the identity they've installed in you. Familiarity breeds more than contempt. It breeds compliance. Repeated exposure to a face, a brand, a message, and your resistance crumbles. Advertisers know this. Politicians know this. That's why they're everywhere, saturating your environment until saying no feels like betraying an old friend. Cooperation? When you work together toward a shared goal, you bond. And bonded people don't scrutinize each other's requests. They comply. And finally, association, the dark art of borrowing credibility. Politicians pose with veterans. Brands sponsor your favorite athletes. Sports fans wear championship merchandise from teams they never played for. Why? Because your brain doesn't distinguish between being something and being near something. Proximity to success becomes success. Proximity to virtue becomes virtue. It's psychological sleight of hand, and you fall for it every single time. So, what's the antidote to this psychological puppet show? Awareness. The moment you feel that warm surge of unusual liking for someone making a request, stop. That sensation isn't real connection. It's manipulation triggering your compliance reflex. Mentally separate the person from the proposal. Judge the offer on merit alone, stripped of the attractive face, the flattery, the false kinship. Because in the game of influence, the only way to win is to know you're playing. Chapter 4. Social Proof. There is an invisible force controlling your decisions right now, and you don't even feel the strings. It's called social proof, and it's the reason you do things you'd never do alone. Here's how it works. When you don't know what to believe or how to act, your brain takes a shortcut. It scans the crowd. What is everyone else doing? And then, without conscious thought, you copy them. You buy what they buy. You donate where they donate. You believe what they believe. Adults, children, doesn't matter. We're all running the same primitive software, and the people who understand this, they own you. Marketers exploit this mercilessly. They don't need to convince you their product is good. They just need to whisper, "Everyone's buying it," and suddenly, you want it too. Popularity creates more popularity. It's a feedback loop. A psychological virus that spreads through mere observation. But social proof doesn't just nudge you. Under the right conditions, it can make you do unthinkable things. The first condition is uncertainty. When you're confused, when reality gets blurry, you become desperate for guidance. And that's when you surrender your judgment completely. Research shows that in ambiguous emergencies, bystanders don't assess the situation. They scan other bystanders. If nobody's helping, you won't either. The victim could be dying 3 feet away, but if the crowd stays still, so do you. Your moral compass doesn't point north. It points toward the herd. The second condition is called the many. The more people doing something, the more your resistance collapses. Large numbers create an illusion of correctness, feasibility, and social acceptance. Your brain calculates, if this many people are doing it, it must be right. It must be possible. It must be normal. Mass behavior becomes mass hypnosis. You stop thinking. You start following. The third condition is similarity. This is where it gets truly dark. You don't just follow anyone. You follow people like you, your peers, your tribe. Sociologist David Phillips uncovered something chilling in suicide data. After a highly publicized suicide, similar individuals kill themselves in waves. Troubled teens read about a troubled teen suicide, and they follow. The victim's story becomes a blueprint, a permission structure, proof that people like me do this. And then there's Jonestown. Reverend Jim Jones understood social proof like a master manipulator. He engineered uncertainty, isolating his followers, creating chaos, making reality unstable. Then he leveraged similarity. These were your friends, your family, your community. When the poison came out, people looked around and saw their peers drinking. So they drank too. Over 900 people, dead. Not because they wanted to die, but because everyone else was doing it. Here's the perverse irony. Well-meaning communicators make this worse every single day. They create campaigns screaming, "Look at all the teens drinking and driving. Look at all the people committing suicide." They think they're sounding the alarm. But buried inside that message is a Trojan horse. Look at all the people doing it. And your brain hears, "This is normal. This is what people like me do." The warning becomes an instruction manual. Social proof backfires, and the behavior spreads. So what do manipulators do when they don't have social proof? When their product, their cult, their ideology isn't popular yet? They manufacture future social proof. We're the fastest growing movement, trending on all platforms. Everyone's talking about this. They describe momentum, and your brain fills in the rest. You assume the trend will continue. You don't want to be left behind. So you join early, before the crowd even arrives. Now here's the uncomfortable question. How do you escape? First, develop paranoia about counterfeit proof. Fake reviews, inflated numbers, staged crowds, bought followers. The evidence that similar others are doing something is often manufactured. Question it, always. Second, never let the herd be your only compass. Yes, observe what others do, but recognize it for what it is, one data point, not gospel truth. The majority has been catastrophically wrong throughout history. Majorities owned slaves. Majorities cheered for wars. Majorities drank the poison. Because here's the final truth they don't want you to realize. The crowd isn't wise. The crowd is terrified, confused, and desperately looking for someone to follow. And the moment you understand that is the moment you stop being part of the herd. Chapter 5. Authority. In 1961, a psychologist named Stanley Milgram revealed something horrifying about human nature. He put ordinary people, teachers, salesmen, engineers, in a room with a machine. They were told to deliver electric shocks to a stranger every time he answered a question incorrectly. With each wrong answer, the voltage increased. 15 volts, 75 volts, 150 volts. The stranger screamed, begged them to stop. Eventually went silent, and they kept going. Not because they were sadists, not because they enjoyed it, but because a man in a lab coat, an authority figure, calmly told them, "Please continue." 65% of them delivered what they believed were lethal shocks to an innocent person, because someone in charge told them to. Welcome to the terrifying power of authority. Here's what you need to understand. From the moment you're born, society programs you to obey. Parents, teachers, bosses, police, governments. You're trained like a dog to believe that compliance with authority equals correct behavior. And there's a reason for this conditioning. Authorities often possess knowledge, wisdom, power. Following them is usually adaptive, usually smart. But here's the trap. Your brain turns this into a shortcut. You stop thinking. You see the symbols of authority, a title, a uniform, an expensive car, and your critical faculties shut down. You obey automatically, mindlessly. Not because the authority is right, but because they look right. Researchers tested this. They had actors wear different outfits and make requests. A man in a security guard uniform? People obeyed. The same man in civilian clothes? Ignored. A luxury car honks at you. You move. A beat-up sedan? You take your time. And here's the sickest part. You don't even realize it's happening. When questioned afterward, people who obeyed these fake authorities denied they'd been influenced. They insisted they acted on their own judgment. They couldn't see the strings. The puppet never does. Now there are two types of authority, and understanding the difference is critical. Type 1, positional authority, someone who's simply in charge, your boss, a bureaucrat, a police officer. They have power because of their position, not their competence. And here's the problem. When positional authorities order you to do things, you resist. You resent it. The mandate creates friction, rebellion. Type 2, expertise authority, someone perceived as knowing more than you, a doctor, a lawyer, a financial advisor, a scientist. These authorities are far more dangerous because you want to follow them. There's no resentment, just voluntary surrender. They know better than I do. And maybe they do, but maybe they don't. The most powerful authorities combine both. They're in charge, and they're experts. Or at least, they've convinced you they are. Here's how they maximize their control. Credibility. To seem credible, an authority must appear expert, knowledgeable on the topic, and trustworthy, honest in sharing that knowledge. And master manipulators have cracked the code for manufacturing trustworthiness. They confess a weakness. A lawyer admits a minor flaw in your case before presenting why you'll win. A salesman points out a small drawback of the product before burying you in benefits. A politician acknowledges a past mistake before outlining their vision. Why does this work? Because your brain thinks they're being honest, they're admitting something negative. I can trust them. And once that trust is established, everything else they say slides past your defenses like a knife through warm butter. The minor confession was bait. You swallowed it. Now you're hooked. So how do you break free from this? Question 1. Is this authority truly an expert? Stop reacting to symbols, the lab coat, the diploma on the wall, the confident tone, the luxury office. These are props, theater. Demand evidence of expertise. Credentials can be faked. Titles can be bought. Reputations can be manufactured. Dig deeper. Verify independently. Question 2. How truthful can I expect this expert to be? Even genuine experts lie. They have incentives, biases, agendas. The doctor gets kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies. The financial advisor earns commission on products he sells you. The scientist's research is funded by the industry he's studying. And remember that trustworthiness tactic, the strategic confession of a minor flaw to make everything else seem honest. Watch for it. The moment someone admits a small weakness, your guard should go up, not down. Because they just deployed a psychological weapon designed to neutralize your skepticism. Here's the truth about authority. It's not inherently evil, but it's inherently dangerous. Because obedience is a reflex, a circuit burned into your brain by years of conditioning. And in the right circumstances, with the right symbols, the right pressure, the right authority figure, You'll do things you'd never believe yourself capable of. Milgram's subjects weren't monsters. They were you, under different circumstances, in a different room, with a different person in a lab coat. They thought they were following orders, following expertise, doing the right thing, and they tortured an innocent person. Now ask yourself, who are you obeying right now? And why? Chapter 6. Scarcity. There's a weapon being used against you right now, and the moment you feel it working, it's already too late. It's called scarcity. And it doesn't just influence your decisions, it hijacks them. Here's the fundamental truth. You don't want things because they're good. You want them because they're running out. Only 3 left in stock. Sale ends tonight. Limited time offer. These aren't just marketing phrases. They're psychological triggers that flip a switch in your brain. Suddenly, something you didn't care about 5 seconds ago becomes urgent. Essential. You have to have it. Not tomorrow. Now. Why does this work? 2 reasons. Reason 1. Scarcity signals value. Your brain uses a shortcut. Rare things are valuable things. It's usually true. Diamonds, vintage wines, exclusive invitations. So when something becomes scarce, your brain assumes it must be high quality. You're not evaluating the item itself anymore. You're evaluating its availability. And there's another layer. Loss aversion. You're not thinking about gaining something good. You're thinking about losing the opportunity to get something good. And loss burns. Research proves we're far more motivated by avoiding loss than by pursuing equivalent gain. The pain of missing out is more powerful than the pleasure of acquiring. Reason 2. Scarcity steals your freedom. When access to something gets restricted, you don't just want the thing, you want your freedom back. Psychologists call this reactance. Tell someone they can't have something, and suddenly they need it. Not because they actually want it, but because being told no feels like control being ripped away. You see this weapon deployed most brutally on 2 groups, toddlers and teenagers. The terrible twos, when a child is forming their first sense of self, and any restriction triggers a meltdown. And adolescents, when identity and autonomy are everything, so every boundary feels like oppression. These ages aren't difficult by accident. They're when the human need for freedom is at its most volatile. But scarcity doesn't just manipulate what you buy, it manipulates what you believe. Restrict access to information, and people want it more. They trust it more, even if they haven't seen it yet. Censorship creates desire. Banned books become bestsellers. Forbidden knowledge becomes irresistible. Just the act of limiting access makes the message seem more valuable, more truthful, more important. And if you tell someone the information is exclusive, that they're getting something others aren't, their brain lights up. The message becomes more persuasive, not because of its content, but because of its scarcity. Now here's where scarcity becomes weaponized. It's most powerful under 2 conditions. Condition 1. New scarcity. Something that was abundant yesterday but restricted today hits harder than something that was always rare. Imagine a product you could buy any time. Now imagine it's suddenly limited. That shift, that loss of availability, creates panic. Your brain screams, "This is changing. Act now or lose it forever." Newly imposed scarcity feels like a threat, and threats demand immediate response. Condition 2. Competition. Scarcity is intoxicating. But scarcity with rivals, that's pure psychological cocaine. When you're competing with others for a limited resource, the value skyrockets. Auctions exploit this mercilessly. Limited housing markets, job applications, even romantic relationships. The person everyone wants becomes the person you must have. It's not about the resource anymore. It's about winning, beating the competition, proving you're worthy of the scarce thing. So why can't you just think your way out of this? Because scarcity doesn't engage your logic, it engages your emotions. The moment scarcity enters the picture, your arousal spikes, heart rate increases, adrenaline floods your system. You feel urgent, panicked. And when you're in that state, your rational mind goes offline. You're not assessing merits, you're not weighing pros and cons, you're reacting like an animal, like prey. Marketers know this, salespeople know this, manipulators of every kind know this. So here's your defense. Learn to recognize the rush. When you suddenly feel urgency, pressure, panic around an opportunity, stop. That sensation isn't insight, it's manipulation. Your body is being flooded with arousal designed to shut down critical thinking. Pause, breathe, let the chemicals dissipate. Then ask the only question that matters. Why do I actually want this? Not why is it scarce? Not why is everyone else competing for it? But why do I, personally, need this? Strip away the deadline, remove the competition, ignore the limited quantity warning. If the opportunity were abundant and always available, would you still want it? If the answer is no, walk away. Because here's the final uncomfortable truth. Scarcity creates artificial value. It manufactures desire where none existed. It makes you chase things you don't need, buy things you don't want, and believe things that aren't true. All because your brain is wired to panic when it senses loss. The limited time offer isn't expiring. Your ability to think clearly is. Now, what are you chasing that isn't actually valuable? And who convinced you it was running out? Chapter 7. Commitment and Consistency. You think you're in control of your decisions. You're not. There's a force inside you. Something deeper than logic, stronger than willpower, that's demanding you stay consistent. And the people who understand this force, they use it to make you do whatever they want. It's called the consistency principle. And once they lock you in, escape becomes nearly impossible. Here's how it works. You make a small decision, a tiny commitment. You sign a petition. You answer yes to a harmless question. You take a position on something trivial. And in that moment, that single moment, you've handed them the key to your future behavior. Because now, you're trapped by your need to be consistent. Society has trained you to worship consistency. Be a person of your word. Don't be a hypocrite. Stand by your principles. From childhood, you've been programmed to believe that consistent people are trustworthy, admirable, strong. And inconsistent people, they're flaky, unreliable, weak. So you bend yourself into knots to appear consistent. Not just to others, to yourself. And there's another reason this works. Consistency is efficient. Life is overwhelming. Thousands of decisions every day. But if you've already decided something once, you don't have to think anymore. You just refer back to that original decision and stay consistent with it. It's a mental shortcut, a way to navigate complexity without burning out. Sounds reasonable, right? That's the trap. Because compliance professionals, salespeople, recruiters, manipulators, have figured out that if they can get you to commit to something small, they can leverage that commitment to make you do something enormous. It's called foot-in-the-door technique. Get you to agree to a tiny request, put a small sign in your yard, answer one survey question, donate $1. Once you've done that, you've self-identified as a certain kind of person. And when they come back with a bigger request, one that aligns with that identity, you say yes, not because you want to, but because consistent people follow through. But not all commitments are equal. Some lock you in harder than others. The most powerful commitments are active. You didn't just think it. You did something. You signed. You spoke. You acted. Public. Other people witnessed it. Now your reputation is on the line. Effortful. It cost you something. Time, money, discomfort. Your brain thinks, I wouldn't have suffered for this unless I really believed it. Voluntary. No one forced you. You chose it. And that choice reveals who you truly are. Doesn't it? Each of these elements doesn't just secure your commitment. It changes your identity. You're no longer someone who happened to do something. You're someone who is that kind of person. And here's where it gets truly sinister. Commitments grow their own legs. Once you've committed, your brain starts manufacturing reasons to justify that commitment. You weren't sure about the purchase at first, but now you find yourself listing its benefits. You took a job you weren't excited about, but suddenly you're defending it to friends. You joined a cause on a whim, but now you're passionate about it. Why? Because admitting the commitment was a mistake would shatter your self-image. So your mind retrofits justifications, builds scaffolding around a bad decision, and the commitment survives long after the original reasons for making it have vanished. This explains why lowball tactics work so devastatingly well. A car dealership offers you an amazing price. You commit, you fill out paperwork, you tell your spouse, you imagine yourself driving it. Then, oops, they made a mistake. The price is actually higher. But by now, you're committed. You've already seen yourself as the owner. Backing out feels like failure, like inconsistency. So you pay the higher price. They removed the original incentive, but the commitment remained. It grew legs. It walked forward on its own. And it gets worse. Simple reminders of a past commitment can reactivate its power. Even years later. Even in completely different situations. Remember when you said you cared about the environment? Now you're donating to a cause you barely researched. You've always been someone who values education. Now you're signing up for a program you don't need. The reminder doesn't just restore the commitment, it intensifies it, strengthens your self-image as that kind of person. You double down, not because it makes sense, but because consistency feels like integrity. So how do you escape? Listen to your stomach. When you feel pressure to do something you know you don't want to do, purely because it's consistent with something you said or did before, stop. That sick, twisted feeling in your gut, that's your body screaming, this is foolish consistency. This is you being manipulated. Say it out loud. You're asking me to be consistent for consistency's sake. I'm not interested in that kind of rigidity. Listen to your heart of hearts. When it's less clear, when you're not sure if the original commitment was wrong, ask yourself one question. Knowing what I know now, if I could go back in time, would I make the same commitment? Don't deliberate. Don't rationalize. Notice the first flash of feeling that hits you, that instinctive response, before your consistency bias kicks in, is the truth. If the answer is no, break the commitment. Your past self made a decision with incomplete information. You're not betraying them, you're correcting them. And here's a final warning. This tactic works especially well on people from individualistic cultures, societies that emphasize personal accountability and being true to yourself. And it works devastatingly on people over 50 who've spent decades building identities around their commitments and beliefs. If that's you, you're a prime target, because the consistency trap isn't about logic. It's about ego, about protecting the story you tell yourself about who you are. And the moment you confuse consistency with integrity, they own you. Now ask yourself, what are you staying committed to that you no longer actually believe in? Chapter 8. Unity. There's a word that controls you more powerfully than any logical argument, any price, any threat. That word is we. You don't just prefer people like you. You're biologically wired to favor them, to protect them, to follow them, to sacrifice for them. And the people who understand how to manufacture that sense of we, they can make you do anything. This isn't about politeness or preference. This is about tribalism, an ancient, primal force coded into your DNA. Your ancestors survived because they recognized their tribe and defended it against outsiders. The ones who didn't, they died. So natural selection carved this instinct into your bones. Us versus them, we versus they. And it operates automatically, below consciousness, beyond reason. Research reveals 3 brutal truths about we groups. 1. You favor your tribe's outcomes over everyone else's. Their success matters more. Their welfare matters more. An outsider's suffering barely registers, but a tribe member's pain feels like your own. 2. You copy your tribe. Their preferences become your preferences. Their actions become your blueprint. Not because you've evaluated their choices, but because they're us. Tribal alignment creates solidarity, conformity masquerading as connection. 3. This isn't a bug, it's a feature. Evolution designed you this way. Favoring your group gave your ancestors advantages, resources, protection, reproductive success. You exist because your lineage was brutally tribal, and that programming is still running. You see this everywhere: business, politics, sports, relationships. Why do people buy from companies that share their values? Tribalism. Why do political affiliations override facts? Tribalism. Why do sports fans riot over a game? Tribalism. Why do family members defend each other despite obvious wrongdoing? Tribalism. It's not rational. It's tribal. So how do manipulators activate this ancient circuitry? 2 fundamental pathways. Pathway 1. Belonging together. You feel we-ness with people you belong with. This is triggered by kinship, genetic overlap, family, blood. The more DNA you share, the stronger the pull. You'll sacrifice for your children more than your cousins more than strangers. Evolution whispers, protect the genes. Place, your home, your neighborhood, your city, your country. Shared geography creates shared identity. We're both from Texas. We're New Yorkers. We're Americans. Suddenly a stranger becomes kin. Why? Because your brain evolved in small tribes, where proximity meant relatedness. Home equals family. So defending your territory feels like defending your tribe. Manipulators exploit this relentlessly. Politicians invoke national identity. Brands create communities. Movements manufacture belonging. They're not selling you a product or policy. They're selling you membership, a tribe to join. And once you're in, you defend it, you promote it, you become it. Pathway 2. Acting together. You feel we-ness with people you act with? This is triggered by synchrony, moving in unison, marching, dancing, singing together. When bodies move as one, minds follow. Music or tribal technology. It synchronizes groups, dissolves individual boundaries, creates collective identity. That's why armies march, why churches sing, why concerts feel transcendent. Coordinated action generates unity. Reciprocal exchange, you help me, I help you. Repeated back and forth creates bonds. Debt and gratitude intertwine until separating feels like tearing yourself apart. Joint suffering. Shared pain is tribal glue. Soldiers bond in trenches. Fraternity hazing works because enduring hardship together fuses identities. You didn't just experience pain. You experienced it with them. Now you're bound. Co-creation, building something together, a project, a business, a movement, a family. When you create alongside someone, the thing you made becomes a shared identity. Attack it, and you attack us. These mechanisms are weaponized constantly. Cults use synchronized chanting and shared suffering to dissolve individuality. Brands create co-creation experiences to manufacture loyalty. Politicians stage rallies where crowds move, chant, and feel as one mass. Social movements leverage joint action to convert participants into believers. And here's the truly dangerous part. Unity without groups is fragile. Unity within groups is permanent. You can temporarily feel we-ness with outsiders through national identity during a crisis, a mutual enemy. Nothing unites like shared hatred. Joint emotional experiences, disasters, celebrations, shared perspectives, a common cause. But these are shallow, temporary. The moment the crisis passes, the enemy disappears, the emotion fades, the unity collapses. You return to your true tribe. Unless you concentrate repeated attention on those connections, make them salient, reinforce them, transform fleeting unity into lasting identity. This is the pathway, perhaps the only pathway to getting together as a species. It requires deliberate, uncomfortable action. Share family experiences with outsiders in your home. Invite them to your table. Let them see your vulnerability. Kinship is partly genetic, but it's also experiential. Break bread together, and the brain starts categorizing them as us. Share neighbor experiences in your community. Act together. Build together. Suffer together, even in small ways. Co-creation and joint effort forge bonds that abstract ideology never will. Share friendship experiences in social interactions. Reciprocity. Repeated exchange. genuine connection over time. This isn't a flowery ideal. It's strategic tribal reprogramming. You're hacking the ancient circuitry that divides people into us and them. You're expanding the boundary of we. But make no mistake, most people won't do this, because tribalism feels good. It feels safe. It feels right. Your in-group validates you, protects you, defines you. Expanding it feels like dilution, like betrayal. And manipulators know this, so they keep you tribal, keep you divided, keep you focused on the differences between us and them. Because a fractured population is a controllable population. The moment someone tells you, we're the same, they're different. They're activating your most primal loyalty mechanism. And once activated, you'll defend the tribe. You'll attack outsiders. You'll silence doubt. Not because you've thought it through, but because they've convinced you they're not us. So here's the question. Who defined your we? And what are you doing to people outside it? Chapter 9. Instant Influence. We live in a world your brain wasn't built for. Your ancestors made dozens of decisions a day. You make thousands. They had one path through the forest. You have infinite options for everything. What to buy, who to trust, what to believe, how to live. Information doesn't trickle anymore. It floods. Alternatives don't present themselves. They multiply like a virus. Knowledge isn't growing. It's exploding, fragmenting into more data than any human mind can process. And in this avalanche of choice and change, something inside you broke. Not your intelligence, your capacity. You simply cannot make fully informed, carefully considered decisions about everything anymore. There isn't enough time. There isn't enough mental energy. The sheer cognitive load would crush you. So you adapted. You started using shortcuts. Instead of analyzing all the pros and cons, weighing every variable, researching every option, you let a single piece of information make the decision for you. One trigger, one cue, one mental rule of thumb. And you know what those triggers are now, don't you? Reciprocity. Someone gave you something, so you give back, without evaluating whether you should. Commitment. You said yes, once, so you keep saying yes, even when circumstances change. Social proof. Everyone else is doing it, so you do it too, without questioning if they're right. Liking. You find someone attractive or charming, so you trust them, regardless of their actual credibility. Authority. Someone has a title or uniform, so you obey without verifying their expertise. Scarcity. Something is running out, so you want it, even if you didn't want it 5 minutes ago. Unity. Someone is part of your tribe, so you favor them over truth, over fairness, over outsiders. These aren't flaws in your psychology. They're survival mechanisms. For most of human history, they worked. Reciprocity built communities. Commitment enabled cooperation. Social proof prevented fatal mistakes. Liking helped identify allies. Authority maintained order. Scarcity signaled value. Unity protected the group. They saved your ancestors' lives. But now they're exploited. Weaponized.